Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of In the Hot Seat here on the Podium Finish. I'm your host Rob Tiongson, editor-in-chief and of course sports journalist since 2008. I am so delighted to have this special guest back here on this segment. She's a frequent guest, heck she even co-hosted our podcast which we're bringing back in April. This driver is in the Arca Menard series. She's behind the wheel of the number 55 Mobile One Toyota for Nitro Motorsports. So please welcome back to the show, Isabella Robusto. Isabella, it's so great to see you. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on again.
Absolutely.
I hear there's some good questions, so hopefully we have a good chat today.
I'll try to live up to my end of the bargain. So hopefully you'll say I'll be back later on this year. So we'll do our best for sure. So we've talked on several occasions about your journey. I've seen you go from the Cars Tour series up to ARCA, and each step of the way, Isabel, you've been very impressive. But you've always handled things with such class and maturity. And I think for someone your age, a lot of people my age can learn from you, to be honest. But
Oh, thank
for
you.
real, my pleasure. How would you say all those experiences, the growing up you've had to do, the resilience you've had to undergo through these last several years, how has it helped you with not only being an ARCA, but the environment you've been through now with Nitro Motorsports as you refine your driving style and kind of work your way up the NASCAR ladder?
I mean, this year, kind of going into a new-ish team, I feel like the backbone of the team, of the crew, are still at the shop, and Nitro's. I've obviously added their people, their team in as well. So I feel like I kind of got a jump start compared to like just going to a whole new team. I kind of already knew most of the people that are there. And so I feel like the transition from last year running with Venerini to this year running with Nitro has been really easy. Off season, there wasn't anything new to really learn. Maybe a few people that I haven't seen before, but for the most part, I think it was a really good transition. And yeah, we started off strong at Daytona, led a lot of laps, and we were fast at Phoenix, just wrong place at the wrong time. And I think we have a really good team for me for the 55 car for this year. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. And I know for a fact you've been knocking on the door for victories and kind of to joke a little bit about Phoenix, isn't that a track you feel like, goodness gracious, you've done everything right to go and get that good finish? Is it a track you kind of go in the back of your mind going, it owes me one?
I think it really does. We've been really fast every time we've gone, and we've just had some type of issue either with being in the wrong place at the wrong time and getting caught up in other people's messes, or just things that kind of were out of our control. And so I really love Phoenix. It's one of my favorite racetracks. I'm really kind of mad that it doesn't end up really well ever for us. But yeah, excited to go back. We have one more race this year there at the end of the year, so I'll have one more chance this year to hopefully have a good finish there.
Well, let's talk about some kind of way to get rid of the hex over there, or some kind of like voodoo thing that's over you, because you deserve a good finish at least, because you've done your homework, like you said, and you definitely need that good finish, because it's like, come on, I've done everything right. Like, just you don't have to work with me, just don't work against me, you know?
Yeah, I agree. That'd be nice, but we go to Kansas next, which is another track that's been pretty good to me. I've made a few mistakes. But other than that, I think we've been fast every time. It's where I got my first pole. So I'm excited to go back there and then back to super speedway racing at Talladega. I cannot wait. I love super speedway racing. So
And I can tell because for someone who's been used to the short tracks, done some road course racing, of course, through Toyota Racing, I'm very impressed with how you've handled those super speedways. And we'll talk about that because I do recall one of your best finishes from last year. I got a lot of attention, of course, ours too. So we were proud of you for that. And you talked about it a little bit earlier about getting to know some of the different people. And you're one of those few drivers, I would say, is really precise about what the car is doing. So, how has your communication with your crew chief, Glenn Parker, evolved over time? I know you guys are just getting to know each other, but how has your experiences racing in ARCA and his knowledge kind of coalesced with each other?
yeah, so funny enough, I've known Glenn since I was 11 years old. When I
Wow.
joined Rev Racing, the NASCAR Drive for Diversity team, he worked on my cars. So I've known him. I worked with him for 5 years since I was 11 to 16. And then it's kind of like a full circle moment being able to work with him again and have him as my crew chief and on my car. And so I feel like it was a pretty easy transition. We've known each other for years and worked really well together. And I think our communication is really good. We've had to work on some of the terminology just because it's kind of changed over the years of how I interpret things now versus when I was like 12. Um, but yeah, I think it's been a really good transition. And having these couple of off weeks has definitely helped us kind of step back and look at the first two races, see what I need to change, he needs to change, kind of what we can do better. And I think it's definitely helped us get to a really good spot going into the kind of big part of our season where we're back to back to back races every week.
And I'm sure as a race car driver, as much as you like the downtime and the time to kind of debrief it a little bit, you want to be at the racetrack. You want to just go fast. So I'm sure you're looking forward to that. And before I get to my next question, that sense of familiarity that you have with Glenn, how much of an advantage is that, knowing that he kind of knows what you're like, but you've grown up, and also too that maybe you guys can be a little bit more honest with each other as opposed to if it was a different crew chief who didn't know your style, and you guys kind of have to be like, I don't want to walk on eggshells, but I also kind of have to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good pairing. We do know each other kind of like on a personal level, which I think definitely helps kind of with the heart to heart moments you have at the racetrack. But at the same time, we're both there to do the same thing, and that's to win. And so we do have this tough conversations on whatever it might be, kind of after the race. And I know that coming from him, it's going to be genuine. And then I think he knows the same thing. I'm gonna tell him to his face type of thing. And so. I think it's a really good partnership that we have together. We both understand what the job is, but at the same time, we know each other at like a personal level to where I feel like it makes it better and we work really well together. So I'm excited for the rest of the year with him just because one, we know each other really well and we've had a pretty successful first two races, not finish wise, but how we've been running and speed wise. I feel like we've started the year off really strong and my car chief and the rest of my crew are working really, really well together, and I think we have a really, really good team going into the rest of this year.
I can tell already just by the way you're talking to me how confident you are. And when a driver's that confident, the results are going to show, and the
Yeah.
victory's going to happen. I know it's going to happen for sure. And the thing that impressed me most, Isabel, and I watched a lot of ARCA last year, watching your efforts in particular. The speed was always there, and you've always shown that ability to just adapt so well. Whether it's a dirt track in the Midwest, Talladega, Daytona, Kansas, you just respond to the bell. And when you showcase those different versatilities on those tracks, how does it help you decide I'm gonna pick this battle, and this is one where I'm just gonna back off, just let it just cool myself off, and then how do you try to turn that strong run into a chance to finally win in the ARCA series?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit on it pretty well there. I think I adapt pretty well to new tracks and new types of cars. I feel like growing up running so many different series and cars really helped that. And so, like you said, going into my first dirt race, we ended up, I think, finishing second pretty well, second or third. And so, kind of same thing with the super speedways, right? We ran up front for my first Daytona, finished third for my first time at Talladega, and led again this year in Daytona. And yeah, I think going into new tracks for me, I don't overthink it. I kind of just go and feel and drive the car. And I think that really helps me just kind of understand that type of racing. And then when I'm able to go back, I have a really good notebook of kind of what I've learned. I want to learn everything that I can when we go to a new track. Chicago and Pocono this year will be the first time that I go to the both of them. And so I really just want to learn everything that I can. And if there's anything that other drivers have that they tell me information wise, like I'll take all of the notes that I can just to kind of get an understanding and just to build my notebook. And I think that's been a really good and important part that I've done over the past couple of years is getting good at learning something every time I'm out on track, especially new tracks.
And that's a really great point you brought up is just being able to collaborate with your teammates. In a way, you just embrace the unknown. You don't get intimidated by it. And that's a nice thing about being young, Isabel, is that you're like, hey, you can put me at a different racetrack. I'll do it. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. And you mentioned about those teammates because I'm actually be talking to one of them. I know she's part time with you guys, Jade Avedisian. You've worked along with her, a lot of great talent at Nitro. What's it like having her on the team, and what stands out to you not only about her as a teammate, but as a fellow competitor on the track?
Yeah, I mean, in all of Toyota in general, I feel like there's the best of the best drivers, right? If they don't want to race against you, they're gonna have you on the team. And so I feel like all of the competition, my biggest competition week in and week out are my teammates. And Nitro has a really, really good lineup this year, and Jade in particular, being able to race against her definitely kind of adds another level of competition when she's in those races. And so I think it's really important, at least for my growth, is racing really good people week in and week out, because just when I move up to the next series, it's only going to get harder. And so the more competition, the more racecraft and things that I can learn now is only going to help me progress in my development, moving up the ladder kind of through the truck and Xfinity and hopefully into the Cup Series one day.
Certainly, and I'm looking forward to seeing you get up there because I've been, like I said, following your career along, and it wouldn't surprise me to see you at the top of the series one of these days. Hopefully, I'm still around for that because I'm like kind of the old young guard now in this series. But no, it's so cool to know that you guys have a healthy competition. You guys elevate each other's performances and just wanting to do so well. And we haven't touched upon this just because I try not to talk too much about the physicality in racing, but we can't ignore it. The ARCA cars, they're a different beast compared to what you ran in late models. So, what's been the biggest physical adjustment you've had to make, and what stands out to you about just adapting to these longer races and also just these long green flag runs? Because people just think you're just, dropping the hammer and that's it.
Yeah. It's a little harder than just pushing a pedal and turning a steering wheel, but at the end of the day, I mean, you just have to prep for it. So the change that I've made kind of in my workouts over the past years, working in the Toyota Performance Center with everyone, has kind of, I feel like, built me to what I need to be. I don't feel like I'm lacking anywhere in particular, especially kind of on like the physical side, because I do put in so much work throughout the week at the performance center, working out kind of in the parts that I need, whether it be like upper body, core. We figured out over the past couple of years, now that this is my fifth year with them, what parts I struggled with. And I feel like right now I'm in a really good place, physically and mentally, just kind of going into each race weekend. And so, it was a lot more difficult getting into an ARCA car than it was in a late model, just because of the longer runs, like you said, the long green flag runs, and some of the bigger tracks with the more G-force. It does get a little bit harder. I think Dover was probably one of the hardest races I've done, just because it was such a weird kind of G-force load that I've never felt in my life, and so. Um, Being able to run that race and come back with notes of like, okay, I need to work on X, Y, and Z for next time, definitely helped in the prep that we did during the off season. And then now we have a 6 week break. So after the first two races, I was really able to take note of like, okay, that was really good, or whatever it might be. And we have 6 weeks to work on that until kind of our main season starts again. So yeah, thanks to the performance center and everyone at Toyota, I feel like I'm pretty good in the car now.
I'm glad to hear because a lot of drivers, I think, when they move up, they kind of feel what's called that falling on the seat feeling, especially at a place like
Yeah.
Dover. So I know that when you go back there, you're probably going, you know what, Miles, I'm ready for you.
Yeah, I am really upset that we're not going back this year for ARCA. I am excited to go to the two new racetracks, but Charlotte and Dover were by far my top two favorite racetracks. So hopefully Pocono and Chicagoland live up to like the hype that I put Dover and Charlotte on my list. But yeah, that's the falling out of the seat part. I feel like if you put in enough prep like I have during my off seasons, moving into different series, I don't feel like I've had kind of that falling out of the seat kind of sense that some people have. So
That's good to know because that's something that a lot of drivers don't realize, and they learn through experience. It seems like
Yeah,
you chalked it up really quickly. You're like, Isabella, don't do that again. Like this is what we got to do. So, in regards
exactly.
in regards to Dover, we need to have you back in the ARCA circuit really badly because that's a fun track. With that, people describe it as that roller coaster feeling going down the front stretch and then kind of like going back up on the back stretch. So.
It does. It really does feel like you're like just on a roller coaster down in there. So yeah, it's really cool. You learn to breathe on the straightaways because it's way harder in the corners. So I learned a lot there, especially. But I can't wait for the day we go back. So I'm counting down those days. I don't know when it's gonna be, but when we do, I'll be really excited.
Maybe by the time you're back there, it's in one of the three NASCAR series, so that will be fun to
Yes,
say the least. So
exactly.
that's going to be the case. Got a couple more questions before I wrap things up for you. Now, as we further progress into this season, you've talked about working on the mental aspect, the physical aspect, picking and choosing your battles really well. But what's one area of your racecraft, Isabella, that you're trying to work on? Whether it's restarts, tire saving, you know, figuring out the battles of aerodynamics. What are you most focused on on perfecting this year?
Yeah, after looking at last year, I think the biggest part that I kind of struggled with were the intermediate tracks. I feel like learning the air and how to race with air was more one of the more challenging things that I had to learn last year. I feel like it started off with restarts was my struggle, and we worked really hard last year on that, and I feel like I ended in a really good spot. Just going into this year, I think intermediate racetracks is a really big focus on mine and learning the air just because it is you can't see it. You gotta it's not like you can practice it. You kind of just have to like feel it in real life. And so it's hard to practice racecraft without you can do iRacing, but it's not the same as real life. And so this year's focus is learning how to race in dirty air specifically and in intermediate tracks. So I want to lead more. I want to lead more races and be up front because the more you're going to be up front and lead, the more chances you're going to have at top three finishes and winning, right? And so I think that's kind of the focus and the mindset that I'm taking into this year compared to last year.
Those are some great and attainable goals, to say the least. And is there a certain track that you're circling, like Talladega? Because like at Talladega, you got a podium finish, which made you go, "Oh, that's our outlet's name." But no, I'm kidding. Um, you know, is that a track you're going? If I can learn some of those lessons, get the right drafting partners, maybe that's my turn to win.
Yeah, I absolutely love speedway racing. So, unfortunate things happened at Daytona that were kind of out of my control. And so, I feel like we had a really good plan going into that. We were able to lead races. We were in a really good spot until we had the issues. And so, I think we kind of go with the same plan that we had at Daytona because I think it was a really good kind of spot that it put us in the race. And so, yeah, at the end of the day, I want to win every race, and one that I have circled this year is Talladega. Pocono is one that I'm really looking forward to as well. Just talking to everyone in racing, they're always like, "That's a really cool track," and so I got to experience it for the first time on the sim last week, and cannot wait to go there for the first time because I think that will really fit kind of my driving style. And then to go to the road courses, I'm really excited. I love road course racing, and Watkins Glen was a really fun track. And I think if now with the notebook that I've built from the year before, I think it will put us in a really good spot for this year too.
That's gonna be exciting. Hey, competitors, you better watch out. Isabella will be coming for you guys. Not that I'm putting you under any pressure here, but no, I love it, and I think some of the experience you did in the GR Cup must have helped too, because that's a great proving grounds for someone like you to kind of sharpen your knives. So that's exciting. I would love to keep going on, but I know you have to get back to work here real shortly. So before we go, do you have any shout outs you want to do for family and friends? I know it's like Drew Carey on the wheel of, the wheel on the big Price is Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super thankful for my whole family. My parents and my brother are my biggest supporters, and Toyota Racing, I wouldn't be there here without them with Mobile One and Yahoo. So everyone that's helped me get here, I've kind of learned everything that I can, and I'm pushing 110% every day to get better and to win. And so I'm super, super thankful for being able to be in the opportunity that I am.
Absolutely. And we're grateful to cover your story, Isabel, and hopefully we'll get to catch up a little bit later this year, and maybe it's after your first win, and we'll get to talk about that winning feeling.
That sounds like a great plan. We should
That's
plan on that.
you stole the words right out of my mouth. See, that's why we got this good kismet going on, folks. So, anyways, Isabel, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Best of luck once we get back into the grind of the ARCA series season, and yeah, I just really appreciate your time. Let's catch up soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.